Yeah, it's raining here. Maybe slightly noisy. Any questions from the previous class?
No, sir.
Okay, so let us look at this expression. Yesterday we were discussing how to write down the expressions. That is the force law which you observe when you are standing on the moving frame. For instance, we are taking the moving frame as the earth. So the rotating or the accelerating frame. So with respect, if you are standing on surface of earth and then you are conducting certain experiments of movements of the objects, then the expression what you have to use is given here. Where F is your applied force like thrust or something, you can imagine. And then the rest of the things are applied force, or it can be even force due to gravitation and things like that. The remaining things are due to the motion of the object itself or due to its position at a particular height. So this is the expression we have to use. We will see an example now. So on the surface of the earth, because of gravitational forces, because of the gravity, the force experienced by the particle is given by this expression. Suppose if the altitude of the particle is given by the position vector r, then we have to use this expression. However, if you are not flying or moving very far away from the surface of the earth, you can approximate that you are actually on the surface of the earth itself. That is 6,400 kilometers versus few tens of kilometers. If you use the approximation that the position vector r and r naught, where r naught is on the surface of the earth, line joining the surface of the earth to the particle. It intersects the surface of the earth at r naught. So that is the assumption we are making. So we will be using this approximation. So the force we already know, it's the product of mass, then the position vector, then there is some gamma also, that is a constant which we have to find out what is it, and then r naught cube. This is familiar Newton's law or gravitational law what we have already seen. So what we basically have to do is we have to substitute this force in this particular expression. That's it. So we will see what happens. Relative to the ENZ system is this particular quantity. So we are just combining two expressions. This is minus m omega cross r naught within the same quantity. So we just mentioned, if you remember, that the mass, that is the force experienced by a person if the earth is not rotating and if the earth is rotating, is actually this particular expression. So because of centripetal force, there is an additional mass for the object. So this is what we see, that is the gravity vector what we see is due to the rotation of the earth also has to be accounted for. So this is the expression where the rotation of the earth has been accounted for. So when you make measurements of gravitational force or something, so this is what we observe. We don't observe only the gravity force. We also see that the centripetal force also will be included in that due to the rotation of the earth. So G is your experimentally determined value. So whatever experiments you do in the lab would also include the centripetal acceleration or the centripetal force. So it is including the gravitational quantity. So it is the centripetal acceleration due to Earth's rotation and decreases the value of the gravitational acceleration. So the overall expression is now this, where mg is your combined expression, what we have given here. The rest of the expression, you have the Coriolis, and then you have one more expression due to its relative position. R naught is due to, let us go back to that expression. Let me open a copy of it. Yeah, so this was your expression. I think this we have accounted for in this expression. And then you have one more term here. Okay, so any questions until now? So this is the expression we will be simplifying now, and then writing down the final differential equation. And the solution of that differential equation, we will be making more approximations, of course. The solution of that differential equation will show how the particle will move near the surface of the Earth. Okay, so near the surface of the Earth, if you look at this okay, so the RL is the above the surface of the Earth. From the surface to the above, that is, if an observer is looking at the object from the surface of the Earth, so that particular vector is your RL. R naught is from the center to that position, center to the place of observation. That is on the surface of the Earth. Basically, the origin of the coordinate system. So, if you expand this m omega cross RL, we obtain this particular quantity. So there are two angles, theta 1 and theta 2. So these angles are, one is between omega and RL, and another is between omega and omega cross RL. So those two quantities are given here. So let us see, look at this expression. There is an omega square quantity. If you remember that the order of omega itself was 10 power minus 5. So omega square is going to be 10 power minus 10. And then in the rest of the expressions, you have only omega, modulus of omega will play a role here. So in one location, you have modulus of omega square playing a role. In another location, you have modulus of omega. So they are already 5 orders different. So therefore, it is reasonable that we can neglect this quantity. So this term we will be neglecting, and what remains is only the Coriolis. Coriolis force is only significant. This is the only significant quantity, and the velocity of the vehicle is reasonable. When compared to the Coriolis and the Sentry, whatever this omega cross RL, so the omega cross RL quantity is significantly less, or 5 orders lesser than 2 omega cross RL by dt, DRL by dt in the relative rate. So the direction of this G vector also we are going to assume, even though there is a small variation, because it's a sum of 2 vectors. If you remember the G vector, let us go back to this computation. This one, actually it is towards the center minus this quantity, this one. So, but we are going to neglect that smaller variation because the angle change due to this is significantly small. So that is the geodetic and geocentric gravitational quantity. So even there we have made certain assumptions there. So the G vector, we are going to assume it is towards the center of the Earth or the zenith direction from the origin. So this is the picture you can have now. You have the, I have not shown the globe here. So the latitude is approximately shown in this location. So the particle is somewhere above, and then you are considering an origin. For instance, if you are launching a rocket, with respect to the location from where you are launching, you are observing the motion of the rocket. So the particle P can be thought of that. So this is a geometry we have. The R0 vector is from center to the origin. Then RL is from the origin of the horizon coordinate system to that particular particle. Then you have east, north, and zenith axis. The lambda and phi are the latitude and longitude of the observer. Okay, not the particle. Latitude and longitude of the observer. So with this picture, we already have computed that the omega direction is in the capital K. So you have to break it down into the north and the zenith direction. I will show you the picture again here. The omega is with respect to the Z axis or the capital K direction. It is broken down into north and zenith because east is always orthogonal to the K direction. Sorry. So therefore, modulus of omega is modulus of omega cos phi j plus modulus of omega sin phi k, since omega is modulus of omega times k. Let us make this assumption that d rel by dt in the relative frame is x dot y dot z dot, which is east, north, and zenith velocity, relative velocity with respect to the east, north, zenith frame. The Coriolis acceleration is omega cross d rel by dt. Actually, it is 2 times that. We will simply multiply by 2 later on. Is given by this expression. The cross product we already know. We have to compute the cross products. Since omega is known from the above expression, and then we have assumed the relative velocity to be x dot y dot z dot. So this is your final cross product. So you can go and verify that this expression is obtained from this determinant. So this is the expression, differential equation we are trying to solve. Now we have computed this expression as well as the G. Let us substitute it. So if you write down, separate out the expressions, what we obtain is x double dot y double dot z double dot. They are all in the relative frame, remember. Minus 2 times z dot modulus omega cos phi, 2 times y dot modulus of omega sin phi. Or you could also combine them because modulus 2 times modulus of omega is common. And similarly, you have y dot equals to minus 2 modulus of omega x dot sin phi minus g plus z dot is this particular expression. I hope you will be able to simplify it. Basically, you just have to consider only these two expressions where g itself is obtained after compensating for the centripetal quantity. Any questions until now?
No, sir.
So phi is the latitude of the origin. Longitude is not playing any significant role. It doesn't play much role here. So equations of motion depend on the latitude of the coordinate frame. Depending on from where are you launching from? What is that? Shar, or are you launching from any other location? So this set of equations will depend on the latitude of that location. So let us now simplify. There's lots of approximations and other things. If someone does it, so then we obtain this. You can verify this. It's a complicated expression. This whatever we have here. So is it linear or non-linear, this expression? assuming a constant phi.
Linear, sir.
Yes.
Linear, sir.
It's a linear expression. It's not
Modulus
difficult to
operator,
solve.
is that linear?
Partly. What did you say?
Yes, sir. So the modulus operator might not be linear, no, sir. So
No, modulus is a constant. No? They are just constants, modulus of omega. Cos of phi, sin of phi are all constants. Only to fix that. Modulus of g is also fixed. So what do you think is nonlinear here? Only when the state variables are
nothing else
getting
is not.
multiplied, we have that difficulty. So I think it's a linear equation.
Yes, sir.
So it is second order. Second order means if you convert it into first order again, you will get 6 equations. It's a coupled equation. That is, z dot is dependent on where the east velocity also. The zenith acceleration depends on the east velocity. So such kinds of coupling is there. So it is a higher order expression. That's all. Let us see. So we will get this complicated expression. We will see how we can approximate also. However, here we have assumed this initial quantity x0, y0, z0. x0, y0 is at the origin and z is at a particular height. So the object is at a particular height and then their initial velocities are 0. So this is clearly what kind of expression is it? Is it a free fall or what? The object is at a particular height. The rest of the things are 0. Do you agree that this is a free fall assumption?
Yes, sir.
You can imagine that the spent stage of the rocket is falling from a particular height. Just after it reaches something, it reaches a 0 velocity, you can assume, and then it is falling from a particular height. And then there is a person who is trying to observe it directly below it. X and Y are 0. At the beginning, that is the stage you can imagine. Of course, simplification, let us see. That is simplifying this part is not difficult. So what we have to do is we have to use some Taylor series expansion for these things and then get these set of expressions. So this is significantly simpler, you can notice. We have neglected the second order terms. The reason is modulus of omega square is actually 10 power minus 10. Modulus of omega is 10 power minus 5. So therefore, this is 5 orders less. So square terms in the numerator can be neglected. Of course, for that you have to look at how to expand this and all those things. I think this will be present in many classical mechanics book. You can go through that.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, you said that if we launch from the equator, we'll get an advantage. Sir,
Higher east velocity.
yes, sir. Sir, so doesn't the launching direction also matter? Like if we're launching towards the North Pole, suppose like the rocket is going around the Earth, but it is going in a vertical circle, like it is going towards the North Pole, then it is going towards South Pole, and then where it is reaching us, something like that motion. Sir, like will it affect if we launch from the pole or the equator? Will that motion be affected, sir? Will there be difference, sir?
That's an interesting. Yeah, that's a good question. I have not thought about that. I don't know. You are saying the launch from the equator. So one main reason for launch from the equator is one is the east velocity. Other thing is if you want to have all possible inclinations, the orbit can have any inclination from 0 to 90 degree if you launch from equator. But if you launch from a particular latitude, then you cannot have lower inclination. So you can have only inclination of that latitude, and then so those were the two things. But I do not know if there are any specific advantages to launch from the northern hemispheres. Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I will check that out. Okay, interesting question, but I have not thought about it. Yes, so we have this expression. Let us see how it behaves. You can notice that even if you drop the object directly from a particular height, so this was the expression you must be aware, right? The last equation. This is what we usually use in our computations. If the object is at a particular height,
yes, sir.
then how long will it take to come to the ground, and all those questions are typically based on this particular expression. However, if you notice that in the east, there is no motion along the north, but however, there is a movement along the east. So depending on the latitude, if the latitude is 0, this quantity is maximum. The eastward drift will be maximum. Because time is positive modulus of omega modulus g. So this will be eastward drift or west drift. Can one of you tell? The quantity is positive. Therefore,
East.
it's an eastward drift. So if you drop an object from a particular height, it won't directly fall on your head. It will actually move towards the east. Of course, if the height is not significant, it will fall on your head. Don't try this experiment. If the height is significantly large, then you will notice this eastward drift. So this is the main thing. So these are the Taylor series. Some expansion is given here. You can use this and see how to obtain this. From here, from slide number 12 to slide number 13, the hint is mentioned here. You can use this and try it out, how to obtain this expression. Okay, so let us look at that. To obtain how much is that? To obtain the eastward deflection, we have to first compute the time it takes to fall down. This is the one. So once you know the height, you can find out to reach 0 height how long it takes. So that is given by this expression 2h by modulus of g, or t equals to square root of 2h by g. And then the eastward drift, if you substitute the value of t in this t cube expression, you obtain this. I'm surprised that how the cancellation occurs. Okay, so there is a root 2h by modulus of g. Just check it out. How this, it appears that some terms have got cancelled off. There's a square root here, but here this is a cube. Just check this one. The eastward deflection is given by this expression. Any questions here?
No, sir.
Yeah, it's a straightforward simplification. So why is it not west? Why is it towards east? One way to actually geometrically imagine is this particular situation. So if an object is at an larger height or at an height h, so its eastward velocity is already high. So when it starts falling from there, it has this excessive eastward velocity, which is given by h times modulus of omega. So if you are at a particular look, the angular rate is same. The imagination is the angular rate is same. Therefore, if you are at a larger height with the same angular rate, you need higher velocity. But when you go come down, the same higher velocity is maintained because there is no one to reduce that. So therefore, it drifts towards the east. So this is another way to imagine why this eastward drift occurs.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, if we throw the object to a greater distance, then it will fall upon our head, right? Because while throwing it, there will be westward drift, and
Westward
while coming
drift,
down,
yeah, it will
while
compensate.
coming down, it eastward drift.
Right. So you have to make sure that they compensate each other. I think it will compensate.
Okay.
You are right. If you don't give any additional velocity.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that's a good part. But if you drop an object from a particular height, then this situation will occur. Okay. So this is the explanation. There is nothing to explain. I have already told you. So for a mass thrown upwards, this is your deflection in the westward direction. So therefore, by the same logic, when a rocket is launched vertically up, you will notice that it appears to drift in the westward direction. So unless you compensate for it, you will not be able to maintain the launch vehicle at the same meridian. So basically, if you have to move towards either east or west, you have to apply this additional compensation velocity. Mainly this component is due to Coriolis. We have already seen that. So okay, so initial velocity with which the mass was thrown up. Okay, so these and all we already know. So there are some other smaller consequences are there. I will just mention it. You can go and have a check on how correct these claims are. So there is something called super elevation of river banks. That is when the river bends. If the river is flowing in the north direction, then it will cause the right bank to be raised. So whenever you are moving towards the north, we already saw that it tends to turn towards the right side. So due to this, the right side bank appears to be raised. Just check this out. Then you have cyclones and anticyclones. I think northern hemisphere it is clockwise, southern hemisphere anti-clockwise, or vice versa. I hope you have verified that drainage experiment. How the water flows down the drain, it swirls in a particular direction. That's the direction of the cyclone also. Okay, so that is about those parts. Let us see. I think one of the questions in the class was, how do we detect that the Earth is rotating? Then how do I know what kind of equations to use to solve? So this problem was addressed by Foucault. So he constructed a device called Foucault's pendulum. We will look at the derivation of those equations. So he was trying to detect the rotation of the Earth. So he performed this experiment in 1851. In pendulum, one of the facts we have to remember is, if you are in an inertial space or something, if you oscillate the pendulum's plane of motion will be maintained. You imagine there is a planar pendulum. So you are in the inertial coordinate system. So if you oscillate the pendulum, the plane of the pendulum's oscillation will be maintained as it is. But if you are in a rotating frame, you can notice that since the pendulum plane is maintained in the inertial frame, if the frame is rotating, you will notice that the pendulum plane to be rotating. So that is the basic experiment, and then that is the part we will be deriving now. Is that clear? First we have to understand that the pendulum's plane of motion is maintained in the inertial frame. Therefore, if you are in the rotating frame, this rotating frame will make it appear as if the pendulum's frame is rotating. However, you are rotating and the pendulum's frame is fixed. Okay, so let us try to see this. If such a rotation is observed in the laboratory, you can conclude that the laboratory itself is rotating. So for that, you are in the east-north zenith plane. So you have erected a large vertical pendulum, which is free to rotate not only along a plane, but it can also rotate and then, it is free to oscillate along a plane as well as across the plane. That means it is not limited to oscillate, or you have not fixed anything such that it can oscillate in only one plane. So it has that freedom, something called, you can imagine, instead of having a cylindrical bearing or something, you have a spherical bearing, so which will allow to oscillate anywhere. The relative movement is allowed. So from the zenith, you are hanging the pendulum. So the tension is given by this T, the length is L, we will be discussing that. At any instant of time, the force is felt directly below towards the center of the earth, that is mg. You have east north zenith axis, which is, so what we have also done is we have simply shifted the origin of the coordinate system, because the translation is not going to be any, it's not going to give you any new results here. So it's not going to change the observation. So what we have done is we have taken the coordinate frame on the surface of the earth, east north zenith, and simply shifted it parallelly to the center of the earth. So with this assumption, let us conduct this, let us derive the equations. I will keep this figure here. So this was the expression we had already derived earlier, that is force experienced by a body in the moving frame. So A naught is going to be 0 now. So without loss of generality, the experiment is thought to be shifted to the center of the earth. So since A naught is going to be a constant, it's not going to change anything. So A naught is 0 since we have moved it to the, anyway A naught is 0. So then in addition to that, earth is assumed to have a constant angular velocity, therefore d omega by dt is 0. In addition to that, the second order motion, that is omega cross RL, because this is 2 times higher than the, sorry, it is having 5, the order of this is 5 times higher than omega term. So therefore we are going to neglect this. So 5 times in the sense 1 lakh times lower than omega. So therefore it doesn't make significant changes. So once again, we end up with the same equation what we had already derived for our free fall. So we use the same expression, however, it will be with respect to this pendulum. So we have to consider the pendulum constraints also here. So this is the basic force equation, that is mass into relative velocity, relative acceleration is equal to force minus 2 times m, which is the into omega cross VRL, which is the Coriolis force. Relative position of the mass in the relative. So in this particular figure on the left hand side, what is the relative position of the mass? From the origin, you have to draw a vector to the t, the end point of t. That is the bob, pendulum bob, where the mass is located. So if you look at this figure on the left hand side, it is clear that there are some of these two forces are acting on it, the tension and the mass. So we have to see what are the directions now. We have to resolve the T vector. So therefore, the force itself is the tension plus the gravitational constraint. So together you have two kinds of force, gravitational force plus the tension. So this is your Newton's law in the rotating frame, by neglecting certain things, of course. So the main change what you are going to observe is, if the pendulum force, if it's a normal pendulum in the inertial frame, the Coriolis force will not be there. Rest of the things will be same. So we have added this Coriolis term and then going to observe what are the changes in the solutions that we will be observing. So this is the one which is going to change the direction of the plane of the pendulum. Yes.
Sir,
Any
here
questions?
with the mg be downwards, sir, it should be like towards the center, I think.
Yeah, towards the mg is okay. So let us think of this. Should it be towards the center O, or as shown in the figure? That's a good point. So let us see how we have derived. Then we will know whether we have made this mistake or not. Okay, let us go ahead. Then we will see.
Okay, sir.
I'm not sure. That's a good point. This is the first time I'm noticing this. So the first step is to resolve the tension into various XYZ direction. I think G would be assumed to be in the direction of K direction. So I think that will satisfy you, no? That is small k, zenith direction.
Sir, but this like the pendulum is changing the position, and if we're placing the we're placing at a north pole kind of thing, so
that additional small change in the position, why is it not north pole? You have to assume somewhere in between north and the equator. Probably okay. We can also place it in the north pole. You are saying, if it is in the north pole, then the zenith direction and then the actual direction is not matching. You are saying.
yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Probably we can neglect it. Let us see whether that neglecting has been done in the equations or not. I think what we have taken here in the derivation is it is in the direction of that small k. That is the assumption that has been made. So if you are on the surface of the earth, so you have to imagine you are on the surface of the earth, and then what is the variation in this angle if you consider the length of the pendulum will hardly be few hundreds of meters.
I think yes, sir, the approximation will hold good. Like 100 is less than.
The point, whatever point you have said is right. Yeah, that is
Okay,
ideally I should have told that it is pointing towards the center, and then we make the approximation to tell whatever. So yeah, your point, whatever you have raised is right. Thanks for that. So since it is okay, so we will come back once again to that since you have mentioned it. Right now, let us look at this figure. So this is the, I will just explain the figure, and once again, we will start it from the next class again. So before that, so what we have done is, at any point of time, if you look at this, I have resolved the pendulum point, the tension T into three directions, one along the X direction, one along the Y direction, and one along the Z direction. Let me observe. Okay, yeah. So that is the figure which is shown here. That is, you are resolving the tension into the east, north, and the zenith coordinate system. So from here, we have to get certain statements. We will see certain observation we have to make. So let us see what we have done. If you look at, we have also drawn this dotted line from the tension T to Ty. That is, Ty is the component along the y direction. This is your y direction. I do not know whether the perspective of that image is coming out clear. That's why I'm just holding here for you to observe the figure for some time. And then you also consider the length, along the length of the pendulum from the point where it is pivoted, you draw a line which is parallel to the line T to Ty, like this. So how do you construct the point Ty? It is actually orthogonal projection on the y-axis, right? So therefore, the dotted line and Ty are 90 degrees. So the same thing holds in this, the left edge also. So these are two similar triangles. I just hold it for you to look at this figure for some time. The arguments will be the same thing. Then you have LZ, L minus Z and Z, the ratios. So we will be making certain observations on this. So if you have two similar triangles, what do you conclude from that? There are some similarity ratios, no?
Yes, sir.
So that's the conclusion we'll be drawing here. So yeah, I will hold this figure. So L is the length of the pendulum, Z is the height of the pendulum above the origin, XY plane, actual XY plane. X is the X coordinate of the R vector. This is the R vector. You have X coordinate, Y coordinate, and Z coordinate. Y is the Y coordinate of R. Then R is obviously X E1 plus Y E2 plus Z E3, where E1, E2, E3 are your or along the XYZ coordinates. Similarly, you have the tension is resolved into Tx, Ty, Tz in the E1 dash, E2 dash, E3 dash coordinate system. So this is the from the similar triangle. This is the conclusion we are making, and then once you observe it, then let us look at the Tx minus T. I think what we have written is for the Ty, I have drawn the triangle. Maybe we will look at this one. That is better. So you have two similar triangles here. So how long is this dotted line along the Ty? If it is 90 degrees projection, if L is projected at 90 degrees along the y-axis, so what will be this length from the pendulum to this final projection, dotted projection? Do you agree it will be y? The length will be y or y coordinate of the pendulum itself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so once you make this observation, then it all will fall into line. So we are saying Ty divided by T is the length y divided by the actual length of the pendulum. Since it is in the minus direction, we have put minus y divided by L. Because Ty is also in the negative direction. The same thing obviously will hold for the x coordinate also, which is Tx divided by modulus of T equals to minus x by L. So once we make observation for one, you simply have to say it is similarly, it is true for others. And in the z direction, you notice that it is Tz divided by T, L minus z divided by L. So L minus z, this is your L minus z. I will just pause here. From here, we will continue in the next class. Okay, so once you do this, it's only writing down this expression. So we will talk about this once again tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions until then. So now the main point is the mg, even though it is pointing towards the center, we have to argue that why did we take it in the z direction. I think I have not reached that point. So the reason is a few hundreds of meters and 6,400 kilometers. Any questions? Today we will be stopping here now.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, will this dz by t be minus z by L or L minus z by L?
Tz by T. If you look at the analogy of other expression, it should be L minus Z by L, no?
Sir, like we can say that t square equal to tx square plus ty square plus tz square. And similarly, L square equal to x square plus y square plus z square. But if we take L minus z, then that will not hold true. L square equal to x square plus y square plus L minus z square. That this is not true, sir.
Okay, so actually the pendulum is above at this location. And so this is the location of the pendulum, which is your z coordinate. So you are saying there is an x coordinate.
No, sir, fine, sir, fine. It's fine.
How did you? Yeah. So how did you say it is fine? Because
Sir,
I haven't
this.
understood what you.
So the L square is equal to x square plus y square plus L minus z square, not z square, sir.
Okay. So you are saying L square is x square plus y square plus
L minus z square.
Okay. Because this pendulum, when it is below, it is L, and when it is above, it is L minus Z.
Yes, sir. So kind of a shifting the origin to L
Yes.
0, 0, 0, 0 L. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Any other question? Class is over. You can. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we will stop it. Okay. Thank you and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So apparently, I think next week we are having longer holidays, or this weekend. Next week, I think. Is it 14th and 15th holidays? Did you check the calendar?
Yes, sir. 14 and 15 are holidays, sir.
That's interesting. So we'll be
Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, sir.
Thursday and Friday. That means we'll be missing both those classes. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then let us see. Thank you.
Sir?
Have a good day, everyone. Yeah.
Sir, sir, I'm Aditya, sir. Could you look into that, sir? The model issue, my answer scripts that I made.
I think I told him. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Probably he forgot to correct. I resent that. He said he will look into that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Okay, so we will stop the meeting now. Thank you.